another episode of Kerry's Corner. I'm your host, Kerry, and thanks for joining me in my corner.
Today's episode is about motivation and courage, and in all realms and factors that can happen in life. So, something that I know I have struggled with in the past has been motivation, but also too courage. Some days it's not that I'm not motivated to do something, but it's trying to find the courage to be able to do the thing that I need to do. And on the reverse and the flip side of that, sometimes I have the courage. It's not that I'm scared or I'm insecure. It's just the motivation ain't there. And my motivation can sometimes feel like it's at like a not even a zero, like sub zero, like negative, like it's in the negatives. So sometimes it's about like even on those days when it's a zero, it's what do I do or what are things that can be done and how can you tackle those so that way you don't end up getting like falling into a slum and like getting stuck in a negative feedback loop of just continuing to do the wrong things. So, with that being said, let's get into the body yaddy. So, I know from personal experience how daunting as well as how much of a struggle it can be some days to find and muster not only the courage but the motivation to like just do the right thing in regards to your body and your health. There are more than a handful of days where I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to cook any food. I don't even want to drink water, as gross as that sounds. But hey, like the truth is the truth. And I just know that that's something that I am not alone on in terms of struggling with. And we all have those days. Even some of my most healthiest friends or my most active friends, or however you want to categorize them, the people in my life that I would look at as like, well, maybe I won't go as extreme to say the pinnacle of health, but definitely healthy people. They themselves have definitely shared their fair struggle on finding motivation and sometimes even having the courage to do a new thing, whether it's trying new activity or trying to accomplish a new goal or simply just going to a new location or, you know what I mean, putting themselves out there. So things that I at least have done throughout my personal life and maybe might be beneficial to you is like when I think back to when I started my fitness journey. Um, and I put that in air quotes for anyone that can see me, uh, because I've always viewed health and fitness as something that's important. Now, have I always made that a priority? Definitely not. And I think history in some ways can reflect that. Um, and while I also have struggled with physical and like internal health factors that have caused limitations towards my goals and journeys in the past. Some that I've been able to deal with a bit more, and some that I'm still working through. I find that at the end of the day, like that motivation to keep pushing on, even when I have hurdles that are maybe a bit more higher than ideal or that I would like, I find like that's been something that I think I struggle with more. Because anyone can go to the gym, anyone can lift weights, anyone can anyone can do anything if they really put their mind to it, but it's about getting out of your head, gaining that courage and, you know what I mean, pushing past your fears and insecurities to do so, and then as well as just motivating yourself to then continue. Because like, okay, awesome. Step 1, you wake up, you're feeling motivated, you get a burst of whatever it is and you tell yourself, "Okay, like we're going to make a healthy choice today, whether it's okay, we're going to start going to the gym or we're going to start walking or we're going to start eating healthier." And you do it for one day. And then the second day comes. And it's like, "Oh, you got to do that again." And that's where I find the motivation begins to decline. Um or like I see it so often with friends that maybe aren't as avid gym goers and they'll go to the gym because again, they get all motivated, they're all excited, get a cute little workout outfit, whatever it is, and then they go a little too hard, or they might even just go the perfect amount. But because their body and their muscles are not used to all of that, the next day, day two, day one, whatever it is, they are so sore. And then they use that as a deterrent to keep going. And then that hinders their motivation because they don't want to feel that pain again. And I'll try to tell them, like, look, I know it sucks. Like, when you haven't been to the gym in a while, or like you haven't used those muscles in a while, it's gonna hurt. But you almost have to push through the pain. Obviously, not to the point that you injure yourself. And like, if you have injured yourself, that's a completely different conversation. But you got to find that motivation and you got to get out of your head and you kind of got to buck up, get that courage to just keep going. Um, because I can't remember the exact formula of it or the exact quote or whatever, the statistic, I should say. But if I'm not mistaken, I think it takes 21 days to build a habit and for your body to recognize this as a pattern that like it is okay with. Um, and so I kind of use that in the realm of like fitness and health. Like you gotta keep going. And that doesn't mean go 21 days or go every single day, balls to the wall, never take a day off, nothing like that. But it's all about balance. And it's finding what works for you in your life. For me, going to the gym on a regular basis works for me because it's the place where I get to listen to my music. So all the music that I've found and downloaded, like I get to jam to, and like it's my space to be able to think things through. Whether it's I just aimlessly scroll on social media in between sets, or I get to go into my notes and write down things, or like I'm actually pretty productive sometimes, where if I'm on the treadmill or whatever it is, for me, that works for me. Um, that might not work for you. Maybe for you, it's you need to join a class. Like maybe you're really into dancing, so you go join Zumba, or you go like you used to do ballet or tap when you were younger, so you join like an adult tap dancing class or ballet class. Maybe yoga's your thing, and so like you make it your goal to go to yoga twice a week, and you join like the yoga studio that's in your neighborhood. Whatever it is, find your thing and then just commit to it. And I know it can be scary, especially if it's a matter of like joining a new class. And especially when you're around the regulars, they all know each other, they're all friends, they know each other's kids, their dog, their great aunt, second removed cousins, uncles, brother. And you come in as a newbie and you're like, hi. But you kind of just got to get past it because you know what? Everybody started from ground zero. Everybody was that newbie at some point in their life. And before you know it, if you can just get past whatever that is in your head that like you don't want to be the newbie, or uh just like that fear of the unknown or that fear of being inexperienced, before you know it, you'll be able to look back and be like, wow, I remember when I first started and I could only do XYZ, and look at me now. And like, it's not in the sense to compare to other people, but then when you see someone else that's starting out and they're starting fresh, maybe they have those fears, you can empathize and sympathize with them a bit more and maybe even be a friend or whatever it is. Um, but it's I don't know, it's just really cool to be able to, like, look back and see those things and be like, "Oh, wow, like, that was me back then, and I'm here now." And so it's like, if everyone had the opportunity to kinda see that, I think it'd be a really cool thing because you really don't know what you're capable of until you push yourself and you try. And again, I'll use myself as an example. Everyone who knows me, especially at the gym, knows how much I love leg day. Like love, love, love leg day. If I could, I'd do it every day, but I can't because balance. But I remember when I first started going to the gym, like super, super newbie. I mean, like I was on Pinterest looking up workouts, trying to find like little workout sets. And I always, not always, but for a good chunk of my life, I worked at a gym, usually front desk, sometimes kids club. things like that. But I always would try and like pick my like personal trainer friends' brains to try to figure out like new workouts or new ways to like improve myself, just so I could kind of build my catalog of like exercises. Cause like if there's one thing I hate looking dumb in public, even though I do it on a regular basis. Like I like to think I can't be the only person that does this, but I think I'm the only person that is silly enough to actually act upon it. But I'll be out in public and I'm really that person that thinks like I'm on an episode of The Office or something and like there's a camera just like following me and like I'll do something dumb and I'll just like turn my head to the side and be like to nobody. And I'm sure whoever is like in my line of vision, but I'm not actually focusing in on them, they're probably looking at me like, why is this chick staring at me like that? But again, I just live in my own Delulu world. But yeah, I hate looking dumb in public. Like I hate embarrassing myself, and I don't know who really enjoys embarrassing themselves, so I'd like to think I'm not alone on that. But I hate looking inexperienced. I hate looking like I don't know anything. Like I think that's just a competitive nature in me. And so me at the gym, like I'm not about to walk up to a piece of equipment and not know how to use it or have to like look at the little diagram thing to figure out how to use it. Like, no, I'm gonna walk up confidently as if I do know how to use it. And there's been so many times I've used it wrong and I'm like, I like go home and I watch a YouTube video or whatever it is, and I'm just like, oh, like that's how you're supposed to do it. So sometimes you just gotta fake it till you make it. And I know that's such a cliche thing to say, but it truly is like the catalyst and it truly is something that you can use to just like push yourself. And like I said, find what suits you, find what's best for you. Whether that's like going swimming, swimming laps, or joining a club, or simply just going for a walk and listening to a podcast. Maybe this one, who knows? Or maybe you're just annoyed with my voice already. But find the thing that interests you, find the thing that brings you joy. Just find your thing and try it. Like a weird little Jamaican proverb, but I feel like it translates to everything else, everywhere else in the world, is like nothing beats a trial but a failure. And if you don't try, you can't fail. But in that same breath, if you don't try, you can't succeed. So you'll never know your full potential unless you try. So, with all of that being said, go out there. If you're struggling to find motivation, maybe you find a friend that also struggles motivation and then you hold your guys' selves accountable, whether it's you put money down on it or like you find a reward system where it's like, okay, like if we accomplish XYZ, we can go out for drinks and the person who I don't know, make a competition out of it and like yeah, like loser has to buy dinner, has to buy drinks for someone or whatever. Or I don't know, just like find your thing that brings you joy, that brings you happiness. Because at the end of the day, you should still also enjoy it. And all I can also say is like, don't let your body deter you from trying. Um, Regardless of what you're going through, um, I know that it can be tough, especially if it's like a physical ailment. It can be very deterring, again, speaking from personal experience. But sometimes you just kind of mind over matter and just tell yourself that, you know what, you can. And like, I can't tell you how many times I've sat there and complained and bitched to my coworkers, my boyfriend, my family, my head hurts, my stomach hurts, my back hurts, my whatever. And then an hour or two later, I'm like, hey, I'm going to the gym. And they'll be like, didn't you just say like XYZ? And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I gotta go and I'll probably feel better for it. And I also still listen to my body though. Like, if I know I'm not physically fully up to it, I'm not gonna push myself too hard. Maybe I just go do cardio. Maybe I just do cardio and stretch. Maybe I simply just go to the gym to lay on the mat like a lazy POS and stretch a little bit, roll on a Bozu ball, and skedaddle. At the end of the day, I moved. I still kept my motivation going because then I feel just that much better. Like, you know what? We still got out of the house. We still did something. Um, and then just makes it that much easier to continue on with that same progress and that same pattern the following day. So yeah, I would say just keep going, keep trying, figure your thing out. And I can't tell you that. I mean, I can sit here and babble on and try and brainstorm things for you, but at the end of the day, you gotta know what's best for you, and only you can discover that. But whatever it is, go for it. It's 2025, so let's stop living in fear. Let's stop living in our heads. We are motivated, we are courageous, and we are going to take our health and fitness and dominate it. I'm gonna say take it by the horns, but I feel like I was gonna butcher that. But now I'm thinking about it, I feel like that's what it was supposed to say. Either way, you got this. Do it and get into the body adi. All right, guys, let's get into the ties and the tangles. In this segment, we talk about all types of relationships, whether it's intimate relationships, family relationships, work relationships, friendship relationships, you name it. It all falls under ties and tangles. And sometimes, not even sometimes, I think oftentimes, especially as an adult, it is so hard to make friends. And speaking from personal like experiences, um, I think we really take for granted how easy it was to make friends when you were in high school, elementary, junior high, and even like college and university. Because at the end of the day, you had a common space that you had to go to, and you were surrounded by a group of people that one way or another you were always like you were seeing on a regular basis. And eventually over time, obviously not everyone's going to be your friend, but it's just human nature. You're going to gravitate towards people that you connect with and you click with and yada 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 yada. Point being, it's way easier when you had those commonalities like school. When you were an adult and you were not in school anymore, and you are working with people that are at so many various points in your life. For example, my workplace, there are people that are grandparents, there are people that are great grandparents, there are people that are new parents, there are people that are divorced, people that are freshly 18. Like, it is such a wild spectrum of humans. And that is just simply in my workspace. And then, like, I work up north, I work up at the camps. So, further to that, like, after I'm done work and then I enter into camp life, while like yeah, I guess their horizons kind of broaden at the same time, it's like everyone's still kind of in their own world because you're up at camp, we're working long hours. At the end of the day, we're just there to work, and you're tired, and especially since I'm up north, it's cold and the days are short, the nights are long, like you name it, the complaints can go on forever. So when you're in those type of environments, the last thing you want to do is socialize with people that you don't know, much less sometimes even the people that you do know at work. So I found that like adult friendships are hard. And finding the motivation to build those friendships, like a lot of the time, non-existent. And then when it is existent and I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to like I need to start like growing my friend group. Finding the courage to then do that, to put yourself out there and talk to people, even scarier. Because while I'd love to live in this world of butterflies and rainbows and rose colored glasses and think that everyone is super nice and wants to be your friend. And yeah, no, sadly, that is not the truth. And like, I've done my fair share of customer service jobs to know that you can do absolutely nothing to someone and they will still choose problems. They will still choose violence. And like again, you could have done nothing to them. It can be 100% just stuff that's going on in their own personal life, and maybe they just in that moment don't have the tools to be able to put it aside, to be able to treat you with a little bit more respect or in a more friendly or kindly manner. Um, but point being, I've definitely encountered it more times than once of saying hello, being polite, opening myself up to someone, and it being immediately met with, don't look at me, don't talk to me, don't breathe near me, like just no. So I think that those can be things that can be massive deterrents in terms of like making friendships as an adult. And even for some people, like dating, you know what I mean? And putting yourself out there. And I feel like that's why we live in a world of like scrolling and swiping and on our phones because like we've just created this environment that it's too scary to reach out to people and approach people in person. And it's much easier to kind of sit behind the screen and do so. And while in some ways that's awesome and it's opened the doors for a lot of people, in other ways, it kind of I feel like we've lost a bit of our social skills and like our like a bit of like what makes humanity what it was. It's maybe what I'll say. And so with that being said, I think something that a lot of us should try and adapt to and work on, and something that I've made one of my personal 2025, call it a New Year's resolution if you want, but goals is to make new friends and to put myself out there. Um, I am very grateful that I do not have to worry or stress over the relationship side of things or like being single and then trying to navigate that. Um, been there, done that. It's not saying that I haven't, but I am thankfully now in a relationship. So I don't have to worry about that side of things. But I see my friends that, you know, they're going through, again, various stages of being single. And like, I don't envy them, like, at all. My heart goes out, like, some of God's strongest soldiers out there. And yeah, no, I just feel like something that I told myself to do is that I want to make new friends, more friends, and strengthen the friendships that already currently exist. I am really bad personally, like my red flag, my beige flag, my whatever color flag you want to call it, is that I am horrible at keeping communication with people. I hate texting. And so you can text me and like you might get a couple responses and then out of that I kind of just like fizzle out. And then I'll see the message there. I won't open it because I have my read receipts on because then at least that like kind of keeps me accountable to like, hey, don't open a message until you've read it. So the person doesn't think you just left them on read. But the catch 22 to that is that I'll sometimes let those messages sit there for hours to then days to sometimes even weeks and months where it's like by time I get back around to being like, oh shit, I should probably respond to this person, it's just like so far gone and then I feel like an asshole. Thankfully, the people in my life that I am good with and I am close with, they know how I am, so they don't take it personally. And they know that if they need to get a hold of me, just call me, FaceTime me, just much better means in terms of contacting me. But yeah, I just feel like, I don't know. I just feel like it can be so hard to do so. And then, like, to make yourself vulnerable and put yourself out there to meet new people. Again, I'll use this example me being up at work. Oh my gosh. I've been there for almost 2 years now at this current job. So, fly in, fly out, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So, 2 weeks, I'm up north, 2 weeks, I'm home. And on those 2 weeks that I'm up north, I want to say for about a year and a quarter, I'll say, however you want to phrase that. I literally did not talk to anyone other than my coworkers. And even at that, it was kind of like strictly just for work purposes. Um, I remember when I first got to work, I was really gung ho. Like, I love board games. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a massive, like, board game geek. I just like games in general. And so, like, I was all gung ho and, you know, I'm like, wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, let's all go play games. Like, let's after work, like, let's meet up. Like, let's go play this or go do that. Like, let's socialize. Let's team bond. And everyone was kind of like, haha, yeah. And then it never happened. And I don't take rejection well at all. Working on it, we're all about healing and growing. But because of that, then it totally deterred me. And I was like, oh, so this is what camp life is like. And I just literally kept it head down. I go to work. After I'm done work, I'll go to the gym. After I'm in the gym, I'll go eat. After I eat, I go to my room. And I don't leave my room unless I'm doing my laundry. And other than that, I stay in my room until it's time for me to go back to work the following day. And the odd time I might, like, if I'm feeling kind of snackish, I might like run back down to the dining hall if it's still open, or like our bag up room, which is kind of like our lunch room or like our snack room, and go see if there's anything that I can eat there. But I really didn't socialize with people. And it's not to say that people didn't try with me. I just was so, I guess, like turned off from the idea or just like jaded. Um, and again, that's my own personal red flag. But beyond that, um, again, I told myself, I was like, you know what? I'm the only person that is stopping myself from getting friends. I can't expect to make friends if I'm not willing to put myself out there and talk to people. And that's not to say I just went out and was like, hey guys, my name is Kerry, let's be friends. Farthest thing from that. But I definitely just embrace the people that were trying to be friends with me and were trying to get to know me. And I welcomed them in and I allowed myself to continue to kind of pick up and grow from that. And now I find that I've made like my little small community up at camp, as dorky as that sounds. And I have people that, like minded. We like to play board games or we like to do activities. So we'll go to the group classes like spin or dodgeball. Um, and it's not all people from my workplace. A lot of these people, I don't even work with them in terms of my actual job. But at camp, we make it our due diligence to try and like just engage with each other and interact, you know what I mean? And you begin to learn about people, and there are people who I can say like are genuinely my friend now up there at camp. And it's it's a very refreshing feeling. But I think that it's something that everyone should try and do. Put yourself out there, try be a bit more vulnerable. You know what I mean? Muster up that courage to just like introduce yourself, say hello, smile. I am notorious for like having resting bitch face everywhere I go. I am so socially awkward. Like, once I'm comfortable, I'm good. I'm extroverted. I'm a certified yapper. Can't shut me up. But if I feel awkward or uncomfortable in the slightest, especially like if I'm around people I don't know, and anyone who sees me at the gym, especially if I'm not like comfortable, they'll see this too about me. I tend to be like, I'll either avert my eyes down, or for whatever reason, I have this weird thing where I'll like look up at the ceiling, or I'll like do this weird dead gaze where I'll like fixate on something super far away and I just lock in. And unfortunately to that, when I stare at something for too long, my eyes tend to kind of go cross-eyed. So I'm sure I'm walking around sometimes with my eyes crossed, and people are like, "What's wrong with that chick?" But either way, I just really don't like eye contact. Um, and it's not that I don't like smiling, but I get super awkward and uncomfortable. And the minute you put me on the spot, I start stuttering. There's been a couple times, even with people that I know, if I just don't know them well enough, I get very just like awkward and flustered, and I start stuttering and jumping over my words, and I call it my like verbal dyslexia, where like I jumble up letters and words. An example of that is like I would say like buzzy funny instead of fuzzy bunny. And to me, it makes sense. To the rest of the world, we're a little concerned. Might call 911 because you might think I'm having a stroke. I'm not, but again, that's just my thing. So I've been really trying hard to work on, just like making a little bit of eye contact. If I see or feel someone's looking at me, like maybe just shoot them a smile, or like if it's someone that I've seen on a regular basis, like, give the gym bro nod, the sup. um and things like that. And a big thing too that that I found successful at least is, and maybe this is more like for female to female, but I might be wrong. Cause you know what? I feel like everybody loves compliments, no matter what you identify as. But something I try to do is genuinely, if I see it fitting and true, I give a compliment. If I see a girl and she looks good, whether it's her hair, her outfit, like her like performance in the gym, whatever it is, like I try to be like, hey, like just want to let you know, love your hair, or like love your hair like that, or oh my gosh, I noticed that you changed your hair color, like looks so good on you, or whatever it is. Again, genuine, because I'm not just gonna give a compliment to give a compliment, but I kind of use that as an in. And I mean, your average person isn't going to be like, yeah, I know. Like normally it's going to be followed with like oh, like thank you, or like whatever. Um and sometimes that even leads into just like a little bit of a conversation, like, oh, like I love your outfit. Like where'd you get it from? Oh, I got it from here. And sometimes it's just that little in that you need because now you've broken the ice. So when you see that person again, you might meet them with another nod or a smile, or you might have another conversation or whatever it is. But it's those little things that I've done at least to kind of break the ice or push myself out of my comfort zone. And through those positive interactions, it's like motivated me to continue to do so, because having friendships are important, especially in adulthood. And while it's obviously super important to like build and grow and strengthen your intimate relationships and your family, it's also important to nurture those like friend relationships, and like not be scared also like for your coworkers to become your friends. I've had some coworkers that have now turned into my friends, and I hope that they're going to be lifelong friends. You really never know, so I'm not going to put that type of pressure or status on it. But at the end of the day, like, I love the journey that we're on right now as friends, and I love the friendship that's developing and growing. And I think it's just, you got to push yourself out of that comfort zone. And again, as an adult, it is so hard because you kind of get stuck in your routine. And like, let's be real, if you calculate the hours in the day, most of us spend more time with our coworkers than we do with our own family and like external friends and like loved ones. And so it's, finding a way to build your tribe, and a healthy tribe at that, and making those friendships that are meaningful, making those relationships that are meaningful, and just building and growing with people that you, I guess, have like you're on this like on similar paths. Don't have to be on the same path and don't have to be 100% like-minded, but at least is respectful to your journey and your path, and you're respectful to theirs. And just again, like kind of just seeing where things go. So do not hold yourself back from making friends. Do not hold yourself back from making like building relationships. And I mean, you can also use everything that I just said in towards like intimate relationships. um I mean, consent is a big thing, so like maybe find out that the person you're interested in is single first before you go running and jumping into assuming. But at the end of the day, you got to really nurture and like having healthy relationships in adulthood is important. Life is hard. We do not need to be making it harder for each other. So I think it's just super important that we like step out of our comfort zone, be vulnerable, like push ourselves a bit to, like build those relationships, because you just never know what can come from that. And like that could be your lifelong best friend that you are avoiding ignoring because of your awkwardness or social anxiety or whatever. And not to say that it's like there aren't things that are a bit more what feels like debilitating, but you know what I mean? Just push yourself. Find that motivation, find that courage and just do it. Like Nike, just do it. Okay, so now it is time for a balance break. Um, in this segment, we dive into the importance of mental health, the importance of like a healthy mind, mental peace, mental clarity. I'm not going to be pushing stones or the cosmos or anything like that on you. If that's your thing, power to you. Um, but for me, I think it's just so important to recognize and really put a heavy emphasis on the importance of just like your mind, like what's going on up here. Um, I think it's really important for us to be honest with ourselves, and just recognize when we're feeling down, when we're feeling low. It can be very scary to admit when we're not doing well. I don't think anyone enjoys admitting that they're not emotionally or mentally okay or doing okay. But the stark reality of it is so many of us um, struggle on a regular basis. And that's okay. It doesn't make us weak. It doesn't mean that, like, we're sensitive or emotional or whatever. It simply just means that you're human. And I think that having the courage to be able to admit when you're struggling or when you're going through something is so hard. Uh, I myself have struggled with mental health and just the ups and downs and highs and lows of life in itself. And I'll be the first to tell you that, like, there have been times when I just have absolutely refused to admit that I need help. Um, coming in hot, seeing it's the first episode, but an example and a time that I can think of is back. I won't give too many specifics actually, because I don't want to accidentally name drop or give too much info. But a few years ago, I guess a bit more than a few now, my I had a boyfriend that I was obviously dating. He had passed away, and obviously traumatizing, very triggering. I was the one who found him. It's a whole ordeal. Maybe down the road I'll get into that more and deep dive. But point being, for a really long time, I was in denial and I refused to admit that I needed help. I just refused. I was like, no, I'm fine. I seeked so many other methods and motives to like dull and mute the pain and what was going on in my head. And while in some ways it was a great band aid solution, the thing about band aids is they don't always solve the problem. And when you lift off that band aid, there's still usually a scar or a scab there that you need to deal with. And they don't always heal themselves. And so I say that to say that it is so important to recognize within yourself when you're not doing okay. And I hope that maybe just from hearing this, or maybe this kind of just like helps add another like nail in the hammer, nail into the wood, that like it's okay to ask for help. And there is nothing cowardly about doing so. And it is okay to just simply admit when you're not doing okay. You don't necessarily have to, like, I'm a big advocate for therapy because I'm in it now. Love my therapist. She's my girl. And through therapy, I've really grown and come such a long way. Anyone that knows me, especially like before I started going to therapy and then still in my life now, there is such a massive difference in the person I am. I can recognize that within myself. And I think that if if there's something I could change within the world, I would make therapy free for everyone. And make it something that everyone had access to. Unfortunately, that's not the way of the world. Um, and I'm not trying to push therapy on people. That's just what works for me. And you know what? For some people, therapy just absolutely doesn't work. Um, it is something that you do have to actively work towards. Just to touch on that a bit, when I first started therapy, the main reason why I didn't want to join or like get into it or look into it, one was because I was just like, Mama didn't raise no bitch. Like I can handle my stuff on my own. Um, and two, I kind of was just like, how is a stranger supposed to be able to help me with my problems? They don't know me. They don't know what I'm going through. They probably haven't been through what I've been through. So why would I seek like help or assistance from a stranger? And what I've realized is that while yes, they might not know exactly what you're going through, they are trained professionals, so they can help you work through what you're going through. But they don't have a magic wand that they can just wave and be like, boom, bibbidi bobbidi boo, you feel better. You have to be the one to actively put in that work. You have to be the one that wants it, and you got to find that motivation to want to do better, to want to be better, and to want to feel better. And again, as somebody who struggled with mental health, there are days you don't have the motivation to feel better. And even within that, that is okay. But I think step one is just becoming self aware and recognizing within yourself that, like, hey, I'm not doing okay. And you know what? If you need to take a day, maybe a weekend, to just be in bed, be in the dark, listen to your sappy music, watch sad shows, cry it out, take depressing showers, you name it, or maybe not even shower at all because that is a really real truth of depression, is lack of self-care or neglecting self-care. Um, do what you got to do, but try not to let that become the routine. And with that, I say feel your feelings. You know what I mean? Cry if you got to cry. Like yell if you got to yell. Maybe not at other people, but yell at your pillow, at a wall. I don't know. Go find a random field and scream it out. Um, but feel your feels, but then get the courage and find the motivation to move past that. And to know that there are brighter days ahead and that this isn't like it's a bad day, not a bad life. The same way how I say, I'm not saying that there are no bad people, but oftentimes it's not that it's a bad person, they just have done bad things. So just try to find that motivation, try to find that courage to be able to just like even just being honest with yourself. I'm not telling you to go tell every Tom, Dick, and Harry, hey, I feel depressed today, just thought you should know, or hey, like I'm struggling with this. No, your business is not everyone else's business, but it's finding the courage to just be honest with yourself because most times that is who people struggle to be honest with most is themselves. And having like confronting those feelings and confronting those emotions, again, feeling the feels and then pushing past it. So if you can do that, you're already just that much further ahead. And your life and the people around you will be so grateful for it. So feel the feels, go through what you got to go through, but find the courage and the motivation to push on and to want better for yourself. And whether that means you go journaling or you confide in a close friend, but through that, if you are confiding in someone else that is not a trained professional, make sure that they themselves also have the mental capacity or the emotional capacity to be able to take on whatever it is that you were dealing with or that you were about to offload onto them. Because I know that there are people pleasers in this world. I am one of them, not to the same degree I once was. Thank God, to a much smaller scale. But I would, because of my people pleasing tendencies, I would sit there and be the emotional punching bag and the emotional, like, vent person that friends and people would vent to. And I'm very empathetic. And so I would soak all that in, I take all that in, and then by the end of it, I'm depleted and I just feel like garbage. I feel like trash. I'm miserable. I'm angry. I'm negative. And on top of that, I had my own stuff that I had going on. And so it's like, not only did I now just, I have like, I don't know, like, let's say this is my scale of what I can handle. Like, I'm already here because of just life, my own personal things. And then when other people just start adding to that, I got to a point where like I was way past my capacity. Um, and sometimes we don't even realize that we do that to other people. So like oftentimes now, if I'm about to vent to someone or if I'm about to have a conversation, I try to ask. I don't always, I'm not perfect, but I do try to be more mindful and try to ask like, hey, like, are you in a place to be able to hear me and like let me vent, or like are you emotionally okay with me like offloading on you? And I know that sounds like so awkward to say, but sometimes you yourself don't even realize that like you need to hear that. You need someone to like ask, because again, you think you're good, you think you're good, you think you have the space, but until someone actually puts into perspective, and to for you to be able to actually stop and think and be like, honestly, like, no, I'm not. Or like, yeah, I am. I do have the space. Um, you'll never really know. And to just kind of trickle onto that too, I promise you will come back full circle again. But just like don't feel bad like if you are that friend that someone says like, "Hey, like do you have like the ability to listen to me, or can I vent to you or whatever?" Like if you can't, like you are not a bad person for saying no. If anything, you were a better friend for saying no, because it's better that you are honest and you set that boundary not only within yourself but with your friend. So then that way, like you are protecting your ability, and then that way that little bit of reserve that you had left, you can use that to kind of like heal and self-soothe and work on yourself. And then that way when you are in a better place, you can be there for your friend and you can listen to them, and like your friend will love you more for it if they are truly a good friend or family or partner. You'll love yourself more for it, and you'll just find that you are actually able to listen, possibly give better advice. Um, and again, just be more attentive. Like, again, we lose sight of like how much we really do have on our plates and how much we have going on. Um, and we're human, and especially as adults in this day and age, like there's a lot going on. So you just got to give yourself a little bit of grace. Um, and to now bring it back full circle, bring it on in, have grace with yourself, have the courage to self reflect, but also to be transparent with the people in your life, with where you're at. If you are able to be that venting or that, I don't want to say punching bag, but to let someone vent to you, or simply if like just be honest with yourself, be honest with the people in your lives. Again, you don't have to dish out and express everything, but sometimes transparency and a little bit of vulnerability can really go a long way. And then once you do that, just stay motivated towards wanting better for yourself, wanting to be healthier mentally. Again, however that looks like for you and whatever works for you in order to achieve that, just do it. You got this. I know it's scary. I know it's tough, Um, and like, unfortunately, life is filled with ups and downs, but sometimes the beauty of those lows is that you obviously had to come from somewhere high to be able to get low. And that just means that you have so much room to climb back up to where you were before, if not even higher. So that's just part of life. You need the ups and downs, and there's nothing wrong with that. And embrace it. There's no reason to, I guess, be scared of it. And so with that, I say thank you. And just keep those things in mind. Um, Again, into that kind of mindful, blissful Mercury and Gatorade vibes. Um, but yeah, no, at the end of the day, just do what's best for you and have the courage and have the motivation. I'm going to do my best to not make this a super long one because I have so much to say about this one. Um, so this segment is unapologetically selfish, and especially in regards to motivation and courage, I have a few thoughts. Um, One, having the courage to put yourself first and understanding that the term selfish doesn't always have to have such a negative weight to it. I think most words have the weight in terms of positive or negative that you choose to spin on it. And my whole thing for the past couple months, if not years, have been to try and spin some of those words and try to find like the alternative meaning to it. And so with selfishness, while obviously, yes, it has its negative connotations and its negative meanings, and like generally speaking, it's not great to be selfish. In other ways, it also is amazing to be selfish. I think it's important to be selfish. And I think that there are a lot of benefits that can come from putting yourself first. And I say selfish in the most healthy way possible. And I say that in terms of like create boundaries for yourself and to like kind of touch back onto what we were just talking about with our like little mindful break there. Like, be okay with your solitude. Like, have the courage to learn yourself, have the courage to understand who you are, what you like, what you don't like. Oftentimes, again, we kind of just like, I feel like we're all kind of just like, we have tunnel vision and we're all like, just go, go, go. And we forget to kind of take a break or take a moment to stop and think, like, okay, who am I? And that sounds like such a weird thing, but in reality, it's such like a it really is a hard question to answer. Because like if you think about like the game Two Truths and a Lie, or if someone's like, all right, tell me like three facts about yourself, people often like freeze up, they kind of panic, and they don't really know what to say. And oftentimes I feel like a lot of that stems from just like not knowing yourself. And like that's not to say that you should have a list of like 10 facts about yourself or like always have a two truths and a lie like ready in the back of your pocket. But so many of us, unfortunately, aren't comfortable with being alone, aren't comfortable with ourselves, aren't comfortable with who we are. And I myself am someone that really struggled with that in the past. I've gotten a lot better now, and a lot of it has just been forcing myself to get out of my comfort zone, and getting out of my head and just force myself to be uncomfortable and being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that has really helped me learn who I am, things I like, things I don't like, my boundaries. And therefore, it's made my relationships, my friendships, how I navigate the world, just everything so much more peaceful. Like, listen, I love peace. I do not like problems. I do not like violence. I do not like turmoil. Um, I've worked so hard to keep my life as peaceful as possible to the best of my abilities. Obviously, life is going to keep happening and things are going to keep happening and there's things out of my control. But from as much as I can control, peace is my priority. And through that, I had to understand who I am and what peace looks like to me, which meant having the courage to be okay and comfortable with being alone and being by myself. And that's not to say that like I could only figure this out while being single and like locking myself up in a room. It's just taking the time to truly know who I am. And like through that, also finding the motivation to continue to do those things and not letting one uncomfortable or awkward experience deter me from continuing on that journey of self growth. Uh, and that can transpire and look like so many different things, whether it's go book that massage or go for like, I mean, men and women, and again, whatever you identify as, uh, go for that mani or pedi, but just book it by yourself. Go to the movies by yourself. I'll never understand why people are so scared to go to the movies by themselves. At the end of the day, you're in a dark room where nobody can see you and nobody's paying attention to you because their eyes are all fixated on the same screen that your eyes are fixated on. It's not like people are there talking and having conversations, at least they shouldn't be. Um, so if there's anywhere that like you should almost feel okay being alone, it should be a movie theater because nobody is paying attention to you, therefore nobody would even probably realize that you're there alone. So it's like if you want somewhere to be able to like practice being by yourself, that's a great place to start. You can even take it one step further or make it easier for yourself. And like if you have a day off or like if you do shift work or if you have the opportunity to go to the movies like in the middle of the day when nobody else goes, do it. Because I promise you no one's going to be there. Or like all of four people might be in the theater with you, but you'll probably have other people that are there alone too. So do things like that. And then when you're really feeling crazy and risky, you can push yourself to like go to a restaurant by yourself. Um, I've done that. Go travel by yourself. It doesn't have to be anywhere super crazy and massive, but just be comfortable with being on your own and doing things on your own. And honestly, it is such like once you overcome that, it is such invigorating and positive and just like motivational in itself feeling that it's like you just can't wait to experience it again. And that's not to mean that you obviously don't enjoy other people's company as well, especially those that you've built a relationship with, but there's just something unsaid about being able to just like do things on your own. And like I've become such a like as like a loner, but like in the best way possible, where it's like I love to go shopping by myself. I love to I have no issue going to a restaurant, sitting down at a table. I don't care if there's four seats there or if it's a table for two and just like eating by myself. I'm sitting there and I'm enjoying my food, nodding my head like this every single bite like I normally would. Um I just there's something just so powerful within being by yourself and like taking that time to be selfish. Like date yourself. I literally have said, I'm like, how can you be in a relationship with someone and love someone if you don't even love yourself, if you don't even know who you are? So it's like, take that time to just understand yourself, explore yourself, know who you are, your likes, your dislikes, your boundaries, because I promise you, it makes everything so much more easier. And once you recognize that, it's also way easier for you to recognize when someone is disrespecting your boundaries and when someone is disrespecting you and like is not choosing to respect your boundaries or things like that you're not okay with. And again, the more that I personally began to go on that journey of just like self-love and like finding out who I am and like what does Kerry like? What does Kerry not like? What is a hard boundary for Kerry that's just like a non-negotiable? It made it almost like it was weird. It was almost just like somebody just like lifted the blanket off of me, or like took the rose-colored glosses the rose-colored glasses off my face, and I was able to see like, oh, this person doesn't respect me. This person doesn't care about me. This person is totally trying to take advantage of me or is manipulating me. And it just made it that much more easy to be able to differentiate who's there for me and who's not. Um, and again, my life just became that much more peaceful for it. And like, don't be scared to set boundaries with people. Like, and then stand on those boundaries. Say it with your chest and stand 10 toes down on it. Like, don't let people walk all over you. If you're not okay with something, speak up. I have really been trying to practice this within my life. And I'm not saying to go be a bully or to like be aggressive about it, but if I have an issue with someone, especially if it's someone who's new into my life, I've really adopted this mindset of just addressing it with them sooner than later, because nobody's a mind reader and nobody knows what's going on in your head. So if I can address with them sooner than later, then that hopefully will prevent that same hurt or frustration or boundary being crossed again in the future. Now, you see, if you decide to do it again after we had that conversation, it's a wrap. I'm done. Because now you're like, all you're telling me is that you're actively choosing to disrespect me. You're actively choosing to not give a shit about how I feel or how something affects me. Um, and I don't jive with that. Like, that's not cool. So, with that being said, like, don't be scared to set boundaries, because people who are truly in your corner, people who truly love you and want the best for you and love and respect you, aren't going to be upset by your boundaries and are not going to be offended by your boundaries. People who get offended by boundaries and people who get upset and angry by you standing up for yourself are people who are in it to manipulate you, people who are in it for themselves, and people who probably have some toxic skeletons that they need to deal with on themselves. And there's probably a reason, like, they probably don't love themselves. They got some things that they need to work on. And that is not your job, and that is not your business to worry about. So, with that being said, find the courage to stand up for yourself, advocate for yourself, stay true to those boundaries, and then find the motivation to keep doing it. Like, and don't let's say you do that, you do. Let's say you do decide to do that and you unfortunately have a bad experience or somebody reacts bad to it. That's fine. Let them. You continue doing you because you are working on yourself, and it is okay to be selfish. It is okay to put yourself first. Um, I always use like the airplane analogy. Like, when the flight attendants, before you take off, they're giving their little spiel, and they always say, if the oxygen mask drops down, secure yours first before helping anyone else. It's that same logic. You cannot help yourself, or you cannot help others if you can't even help yourself. You can't love others if you can't even love yourself. You need to show up for yourself before you can show up for anyone else. And so find that courage, get that motivation to keep doing it once you do try. Don't let the haters or the toxic people or those walking red flags deter you. Like, just keep your sights forward and just know that you're doing what's best for you, because it is okay to be selfish. Be unapologetically selfish. All right, I'm not going to lie. I did have a power to the people, which is my next segment where we would dive in. And again, I say we because we are in this together. But it's where I, in reality, usually post some sort of a poll or some type of like thought provoking question or whatever on my social media, and I get responses. And unknowingly to the people who follow me on social media, I then use that to use that in my podcast. and kind of just dive into it a bit more and discuss it. So I had one that I had done, and but it was a while ago and I can't find it. And I just don't have the energy to dig for it anymore because every time I think I found it, it's not. And then it just keeps kicking me out. It's a whole thing. Okay. It's a whole thing. So there is no power to the people for this episode. Want, want, want. But there will be one for the next one. But we're going to dive into the confidence catalyst, which is simply just a word that I'm going to provide you that kind of encompasses what we were talking about throughout this podcast. And it's just something to kind of think about. Add it to your vocabulary, whether it's something that you use as like your mantra for the week, for the month, for the year, or it's just, again, something that you kind of think about and you're like, yeah, like it's just kind of like that. It's like a thought provoker, but it's like that catalyst to push you, as I would say boost and push in the same word. This is where my verbal dyslexia comes in. Um, but push you in the direction of choosing you. So anyways, today's confidence catalyst is audacity. And since so many of you have it, I think we all have it to some degree. Let's flip it, take it from the negative context that it normally has, and let's remold it into having the audacity to choose ourselves first, having the audacity to better ourselves. Find the audacity to be unapologetically selfish, get into that body yaddy, give yourself a little mindful break. You know what I mean? Work on your inner peace, balance and shake your chakras or whatever you got to do, but have the audacity for yourself. Do you? Not the toxic audacity, okay? Don't be meddling into other people's business. Don't be sticking your nose where the sun don't shine and where it doesn't concern you, but have the audacity for yourself and that confidence to be the best version of yourself and to want the best for yourself so it can therefore transpire into every other aspect in your life. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me in my corner and listening to me ramble at you for however long it's been. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I feel like that's such like an influencer thing to say, but I also feel like it's just like fitting. But comment if you have anything, any advice, any opinions that you'd like to give. Like the podcast and the video if you enjoyed it, if you enjoyed what you heard, share it, please. And again, not for the clout. Look at me trying to be all Gen Z, but share it not for the clout, but just to kind of get the message across. If there's something that you liked and you were like, damn, like she's spitting facts, like go sis. I don't know if you guys could hear my snaps because I have my voice isolation on my mic. But um with that being said, yeah, if you heard something or if something really spoke to you or resonated with you, share it. Um, I constantly am sharing podcasts with my friends. I don't care if they don't ever want to listen to them. I'm just like, listen, I heard this. It was so amazing. It was so good. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm constantly just like sharing stuff to the people in my lives because I'm like, if I'm going to see this, you're going to see this. If I get to learn, you get to learn. I'm going to grow, you're going to grow. I'm all about, like I said, not being the gate queen, the gatekeeping queen. Um, but either way, with that being said, thank you so much for anyone who has stuck through and listened to me babble and ramble this entire time. Um, if I lost you halfway through, all good. Thanks for stopping by for the first couple seconds. Hey, can't win them all. And until next time, I don't really have a goodbye thought through. So I guess just like peace and love. And don't forget to have the audacity. I do this hoping that I'm going to remember to edit the video portion of this to say audacity, all pretty and sparkly. But if not, still have the audacity, ladies and gentlemen. Have a fantastic week. Put yourselves first, but not in an unhealthy way. And just be the best person that you can be. And until next time, see you later.